It's high time we discuss quantum computing, and thankfully, Philip de Souza of Aurora is here to break down what it is, the current, medium, and long term timelines, and most importantly, the impact it will have on security and MSPs. That and much more ahead. It's ChannelPro Weekly number 263 Getting Entangled. Hello and welcome to ChannelPro Weekly, episode 263. My name is Matt Whitlock, the editor for the ChannelPro Network and your host of this fine show for folks out there like you. And who are you? Well, you are the VARs, you are the IT integrators, you're the managed services providers, you're the managed services security providers, you're the security consultants, the IT consultants, the virtual CIOs. If any of those things sound like you, guess what? You are in the right place, and we have got a great show in store for you. And if those don't sound like you, stick around anyway, because we're going to have a great conversation with an awesome guest, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So you are going to love it. And who is that guest? Well, that guest is Philip de Souza. He's the founder of Aurora, a California-based consulting firm specializing in cybersecurity and compliance. It was established in 1990. Aurora served as an experienced and trusted security advisor to enterprise, state, and federal clients. He also founded ANITI, a nonprofit to empower girls in underdeveloped countries using technology. And interestingly enough, he also rides a Harley and has visited all 7 continents. Wow, this is going to be an amazing interview. Welcome, Philip.
Thanks, Matt. And I wish you, I know this is 263. I wish you 623 or 632 soon. Well done.
Well, hopefully we get that far. I think if I were to track out the episodes, that'll put us sometime in the 2050s, I think. But you never know. We might get there. I hope we stay on that long. That would be fantastic. And why shouldn't we? Because this is a rapidly changing business and technology. Even just from what IT providers were doing 10 years ago to today, it's just rapidly changed and is totally different. So who knows? We could go that far. I want to first address the audience here by saying, I know it's been a couple weeks since we had a show. We had events back to back in Baltimore and Columbus, and it got a little crazy there. Really busy with travel. So sorry for the little bit of a break, but we are back now this week, and I want to give a personal thank you to all of our listeners that came to one of those 2 events. And we've got more events coming up that we're going to talk about later in the year, but we'll get to that later in the show. Philip, let's start off the conversation by learning a little bit more about you. So tell us a little bit more about you and Aurora and kind of your background.
Like you said, in bullet points, founded Aurora 32 years ago, cybersecurity, federal, state, local, commercial. Had a lot of fun doing that. Sold Aurora 2 years ago. I'm still part of the organization. I do some public speaking. We've got a foundation, as you mentioned, in India primarily, but we're looking to grow. And I love to travel, as is evident of the fact that, we've been to all 7 continents. As long as we still could influence the kids' schedule, that's changing fast.
So how long did it take you to actually visit all 7? Did you spend like a long time traveling all the continents, or did you just you stepped foot in one in the airport and you're good? How involved is that?
No, it's a little more than that. So Asia is easy, right? India was home for a long time, so we got to cover quite a few areas in Asia. Favorite continent, Matt, by far, South America. Best kept secret. It's not on the beaten tourist path, so highly recommend it. And then, of course, we finished our Antarctica year before last in January, when there's this little window, to make the Drake passage at its calmest, which is, I guess an oxymoron. But the whole thing took us about 10 years, I guess, with we're kind of last minute. And by the way, here's a fun fact. Brazilian visa takes a long time to get. And Peru, the Machu Picchu, get your tickets well in advance. That's my summary of world travel.
Awesome. Well, I'll probably have a few more questions about that, but we'll talk about that after the break a little bit when we get a chance to talk about some other things. But the primary reason why we're here is we wanted to have a conversation about quantum computing. We talked about technology changing, right? And how all of the things that MSPs are doing and all these technologies that they have to learn about and adopt and embrace. Well, this is another big one coming up on the horizon. And you think, AI is kind of dominated the headlines lately, and it's been a huge force on the industry. But quantum computing is not far behind that. If some might even argue that it's the early stages are here. And I know you're kind of an expert in this matter, so I'm really excited to have you on. But let's frame this conversation first, okay? Because quantum computing may not be something that everyone's aware of or understand a lot about. So why don't we talk about why we're having the conversation and kind of go through some of the basics of quantum computing?
Sure. Good question, Matt. I mean, it's a deep question. Why the heck are we talking quantum? You just look at your LinkedIn feed and you've been all over the country and we're barely getting our arms around AI. And you and Joel and Jay-Z do this amazing job of influencing and sharing knowledge, right? And MSPs, MSSPs are trying to get their arms around AI. Um, put it as part of their offering. It's of commercial importance to be able to address our customers, but quick on its heels, as we'll learn today, is quantum computing. In the short term, and we'll talk about this, 1 to 3 years, we're going to start seeing questions being asked by customers, which is going to affect processing. Security is a huge one, as well as applications. And so I thank you for the opportunity to at least, to put a seed in our listeners' heads, ears, pick a body part, so that we can at least start having an intelligent conversation at the tip of the iceberg, if that's a visual.
And if I was going to pick a body part, it would be the femur.
Okay. Okay.
Just why not?
Why not?
So Philip, tell us, for those who are out there who have no idea what quantum computing is, at the
Right.
very basic, what is quantum computing?
I'll try to do this in 30 seconds to a minute, and I'm going to talk really fast. So the traditional computing that we now refer to as classic computing as part of quantum speak, Matt, was the chip. The chip was got, hundreds, first tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands of transistors. And these transistors formed the basic CPU on classical computing, and they were states of 1 and 0. In quantum computing, that very chip with those hundreds of thousands of transistors, now think in terms of a qubit, right? A qubit is no longer 1 and 0. It's like the equivalent of flipping a coin and catching that coin in any state as it's flipping, multiple states. Therefore, the term that's used is superposition, meaning instead of ones and zeros, infinite number of positions. So the qubit is one of the basic measures of power in quantum computing. I'm going to rattle off a few different basic tenets or basic terms that we're going to use in our conversation today. I am not a subject matter expert. I probably know enough, having talked about this and talking about cybersecurity, enough to sound intelligent. So let's start there, right? So qubits. The fun one is entanglement. So these qubits, are dependent on each other. And the irony of this, and that in a metaphysical state, they irrespective of distance between them, are entangled. Einstein referred to this as, kind of a spooky syndrome, where one particle, irrespective of the distance, is entangled and behaves the same as the other. That's both good and bad. Good because now we can use this for computing power. Bad that if there's errors, it'll multiply. The other term is quantum supremacy. It's basically a milestone where it says that, look, quantum computing can now outperform classical computing, right? It's a supreme state, so to be. Google claims to have achieved this in 2019. We believe on average that quantum supremacy, and that is a word, kind of scary sounding, will be achieved in the next decade. There's quantum speed up, which quantum computers can solve complex problems that they say classical computers are not capable of even starting with, right? Which then brings us to the last piece, which is error and correction. So very simply, Matt, for this qubit, right, there's got to be a catch in this great conversation. For it to act properly and accurately, and I'm going to frame this with remember the Pentium error that was built into the chip a long time ago that they had to fix? Well, this is possible in quantum computing in qubits. And so the qubit has to be in this state of coherence, right? A little tap, physical tap, could be the equivalent of, plane in turbulence dropping 10,000 feet and causing all kinds of chaos. Now, very simply, and I'm not a physicist, to achieve this state of coherence, this has got to be kept in as close to 0 degrees as possible without any noise and any correction. So error correction is a big deal with quantum computing. And while we've got the chips and we're doing the research, this whole, cooling system and zero vibrations and everything else far outweigh the building of the chip itself. So to sum up, qubits, this concept of entanglement, quantum supremacy, quantum speed up, be able to outperform any classical computer. And last but not least, focus on the fact that this has got to be in an error-free state.
So
There's your basics.
Do you see quantum computing being very limited to like the data center where those conditions can be met, or do you think that over time we're going to see that technology evolve to where it'll be powering your phone or your laptop?
So today there are hybrid models that we'll talk about where you can go buy quantum computing power in the cloud. But it's a pure case of demand and supply, right? We're looking at these vast amounts of data, and you've talked about this in past panels and shows. We're talking about things like AI and data privacy, and we're going to need this sheer computing power that classical computers are not going to be able to deliver as our data processing grows. And so I see that quantum computing in its hybrid state in the cloud is 3 to 5 years away. But 10 years from now, you and I are going to have a very different conversation that's going to make it's going to be lightning speed. It's going to make your podcast, show number 623, happen like that, Matt.
So let's talk about the timeline. So what is the current state of quantum technology? Where are we today, and kind of where are we going? How do you see this evolving?
Good. So cloud access, Google, Microsoft, IBM, Amazon, D-Wave have access to quantum processors. They're allowing businesses and researchers to experiment with algorithms right now. There are hybrid solutions. I've been talking to my cousin who is ex-federal in he states he's semi-retired. I like that. I might just actually use that. So he was director, vice president, etc., for the feds in Chicago. And he was saying that, the feds have been toying with the use of quantum computing because they've got these vast amounts of financial data, probably 10 or 15 years back, looking for solutions, right? So that's on the commercial side. There's pilots and cases right now that are currently happening. So we're solving for optimization problems. We're applying machine learning. That's what scares me, Matt. Imagine we're just getting our arms around AI, and we're talking about ChatGPT and its ability to generate data. Imagine quantum being applied to that. Last but not least, cryptography. This is already starting. The potential for commercial quantum computing to literally, and Timothy Hollaback was a podcast guest of mine. He does industrial standards for DigiCert, and he used an amazing term. He said quantum computing has the potential to erase encryption. Very simply. So that's scary, right? Imagine encryption as we know it to be completely non-existent because of the power of quantum to decrypt that fast. So what do I see as timeline? 1 to 3 years, that's starting now. Clock starts now. Exploration, experimentation, various platforms. Fermi Labs, headquartered in Chicago, is already offering most of they're a DOE, Department of Energy collaboration, and you can look them up, FERMI Labs, and they offer, I know Yale and the MITs and everyone is using their power, as is Berkeley and all the schools, as well as commercial applications using quantum power. So that's short term, 1 to 3 years. Within 3 to 5 years, which is really close, we're going to see niche applications, right? We're going to see specific, maybe in financial, definitely in crypto. And this is about the time where my concern, the quantum resistant cryptography, will be solved. So there is an acronym, and there's always an acronym, post-quantum cryptography. NIST is already looking at this, and I feel, And I hope that in 3 to 5 years, we're going to address quantum cryptography needs, which would be the result of whatever quantum computing brings to us. 5 to 10 years, Matt, broader adoption, right? Commercial uses across various industries beyond just say, let's say, weather and finance. There's going to be some integration and crossover to classical computing. The World Economic Forum has a white paper, and I'll share the link with you to share with your guests. It's beautifully done in June of 2023. And they're saying, look, in the next 5 years, it's going to be important that these ecosystems coexist, classical computing and quantum. And I feel that 5 years is a good point for that to start. And last but not least, our favorite word, standardization, right? So we're going to start seeing standards being established for quantum computing here to stay. That's where the guardrails come in, the governance, regulation, and compliance. Now, that's 1 to 10 years that I've outlined for you. What could affect it, both positively and negatively, is what happens with the hardware advances, right? If we can reduce error rates, if we can advance qubit fidelity, software, and how many people pay attention, hoping this conversation has a few ripple effects. The investment, the research, education and training is going to be a big one. And thankfully, in this great country, regulation and standardization has kept up, as we've seen with AI. NIST and the current Congress were quick to come in with framework. We're hoping that those conversations have already started, and I'm hoping they'll be formalized in the next 1 to 5 years.
So what's holding quantum back from achieving that scale today? Is it the fact that the qubits are really, really hard to engineer?
Error rate, scalability, and the progress in the development. Yes, if I was to pick something just at the top of the pile, that would be it.
And so is AI, this new wave of AI and machine learning, is that somehow helping with the whole error correction side of supercomputing? Or quantum computing? Is that going to speed that up?
I am sure that, hand in hand, right? It's a catch-22 situation. So using AI to solve for errors is possible. However, the solution lies with the technology, right? And just to give you an idea, the qubit count, right? The idea is to get over the 100 qubits. So I don't know, 100 chips. I don't know how you position this, but the 100 qubit threshold. So IBM has crossed it with Heron, right? They have 133 qubits that they're testing. Google's at 54. Their Sycamore processors at 54 qubits. So we're moving fast. And there are companies like Rigetti, they've got processors, they've got the roadmap ready to go, and they want to scale for thousands, Matt, right? But they're still doing this, to the best of my knowledge, in labs with, lots of cooling power and stabilization and everything else. And sooner than later, we should be able to cross that threshold. It's like the old Ataris. I'm dating myself, right? Plugged it into your color television, huge keyboards, and called your parents to see a little ball bouncing on the screen. Today we can do, so much more and fly space shuttles on our iPads, right? So same equivalent. Exciting times, in short.
So what's interesting to me is that when you look at classical computing right now, and then you contrast that with qubit, you're saying, well, right now they have like 100 qubits, right? I mean, the modern day classic processor has trillions of transistors, right?
Absolutely. That one qubit, though, remember, it doesn't have a 1 and 0 state. It has infinite states, right? That's what the whole superposition keyword that we used before is all about, right? It's saying that, in these multiple states, we can outsolve just the starting point of quantum computing is far beyond the outer reaches of classical computing. That's the whole supremacy and superposition conversation. And so I don't personally think you can compare. These are orders of magnitude. Now, here's the deal. one qubit to the second one is raised to the power, right? It's not multiplication, right? It's exponential. So two transistors and two qubits cannot be compared. 10 qubits is, 1 to 10 zeros, whereas 10 transistors are 10, literally 10 transistors. I am oversimplifying this, but this is just to give you comparative scale.
Yeah, well, and that's where we start to get into the conversation of impact, right? Because computing is powerful today, at least in our minds now, but as you said, in 10 years, it's going to be we're gonna look like right now we have TI calculators as our computers, if not even less than that, right?
I raise the the Texas Instrument calculator, and I give you an abacus. I think that's going to be that's going to be the difference with quantum computing done right.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the impact because we can talk about technology, and I love talking about technology. I could do that all day long. But let's bring this home and talk about why this matters to your average MSP. Particularly, you touched on it earlier. It really matters to the security side of this discussion. So
Absolutely.
why is this important? Why does it matter?
So two sources of knowledge from where I start this conversation. One is this white paper written by the World Economic Forum talking specifically about quantum readiness. And this was done in June of 2023. I promised to share it with you. For the armchair strategist, it was 60 Minutes that did a quantum computing article, I think about 6 months ago. Also fun, to see how things are evolving. Now, let's bring this home. NIST has actually put an acronym to it, right? PQC, which is post quantum computing. And right at the top are two things that will definitely affect us. And let's talk first cryptography, and then we're going to talk data protection. So again, I'm going to repeat his name, Timothy Holoubek, right? He's industrial and standard technical strategist at DigiCert. Says quantum has the potential to erase encryption. So our first need, even before we come to encryption, is those post-its, and our need to have 20-character passwords are now going to be 20-character passwords with symbols and everything else could now be solved in seconds, if not nanoseconds, right? Throw AI at it, look at a profile. Hackers are given, generative AI, the power of quantum computing, and say, look, this is Matt's profile. This is what he does for fun. Illinois, beautiful studio, travels the world. Help me guess his password. With the power of quantum computing, and I don't mean the FUD piece here, we're going to see what at one point in our lifetimes took 1 million years to solve. That's what they said. If you encrypt a password, it would literally take 1 million. Then it came down to, tens of years, and now it's a few years, right? It's all going to go away. It's going to be meaningless. So quantum safe algorithms for cryptography is critical. The second piece is quantum key distributions, right? This is the equivalent of encryption keys. Data protection, which is basically encryption, backup, recovery. That's going to be, MSPs will have to look at that. Infrastructure is going to be a big one, Matt, right? Hardware and software readiness. We're going to be having these conversations for real in 3 to 5 years. Companies, organizations are going to come and say, hey, look, you know what? Are we adaptable to quantum technologies? This is fast on the heels of being AI ready. Quantum readiness is going to be real. And we're going to follow a similar pattern to AI. We're going to look at infrastructure. We're going to look at vendor assessments. And it's good to germinate that conversation today. So that's, I would say, priority one for MSPs and MSSPs. If I have a couple of minutes, I can talk about skills and risk assessments and things like that.
Yeah, I think we should. I want to touch quickly on the whole like elimination of encryption because that's really scary, right? Because what you're saying is that if you can break if you can break encryption to that level, like you're then decrypting web traffic in real time, right? and all of our current security in computing is heavily based around the concept of encryption, right? I mean, and also, I mean, like hackers who are doing like ransomware stuff are also leveraging encryption to pull off those scams. So I guess it's nice that we can crack those in like 5 seconds, if not less. But the for how much encryption is used in a negative way, it's used in a positive way. Do you think that we'll be able to come up with a scheme to protect data with computing at that level?
A little, so you need to understand me, Matt. I am the eternal optimist. Okay. And I believe that, I mean, you remember Y2K, we survived, right? We're holding, the edge of the desk. That was no fun watching that year. The crystal ball drop was no fun because they're like, okay, is the pagers, phones going to go off? What the heck is going to happen in
Right. Are the
Y2K?
planes going to fall from the sky? Are the
Exactly.
nuclear power
And
plants going to
yeah,
explode?
we survived. Then fast forward a few years, we're spraying Amazon boxes on the front door to take out potential germs. We survived that. And so this is the optimist in me. I'm saying yes, we will develop quantum resistant encryption methods that'll cover data in transit, data at rest, data in motion, data in use. We'll get there.
Excellent, excellent. And so what can MSPs, MSSPs, you talked about risk and skills. What do they need to be learning? What do they need to be doing right now to prepare for this seemingly inevitable future?
So we've talked about cryptography and security and infrastructure. Those are the two big buckets that will be at the doorstep of your friendly neighborhood MSP and MSSP 5 years latest. Okay. What can we do now? Start training, awareness, start having the conversations. This one is a good one, right? It's just putting that seed in to start thinking about this. So training, in 3 years, start hiring experts in quantum computing, quantum cryptography. Strategic actions for MSPs will definitely be, let's go bottom up, right? First of all, collaboration, talking to the people, the subject matter experts, monitoring and adoption is a big one, right? Developing, spreading the knowledge, learning. 3 years, quantum ready solutions, education and awareness of your customers. And at some point in 5 years, start looking at risk assessment to evaluate the current landscape, understand what assets are most vulnerable for quantum attack. That 5 years out at the latest. With immediate steps to take, Matt, hybrid solutions, right? Start looking at combining classical and quantum cryptography to ensure a smooth transition. Those solutions in 1 to 3 years are going to happen. At some point, if you haven't already, because of AI, you're going to take inventory of your cryptographic assets. And last but not least, or I should say first, is stay informed, right? Have this data feed in the back of your ecosystems on all things quantum.
So obviously MSPs and MSSPs have a lot of prep work they need to do and some awareness and training and stuff. Do they start having conversations with their customers right now, or does that seem like a bad idea to go to your customers and say, "Hey, all of this cybersecurity stuff that I'm doing for you right now is like going to be useless in 5 to 10 years"? Do they have that conversation now, or do they wait a little bit down the road until this
Matt,
is a little bit
I'm
more real?
smiling because, one of the basic tenets in break fix is you touch it, you own it, right? You can't blame the last guy, right? It's like you can't even explain. And boy, have we had some instances of that, right? We are it. I would spend the next, I don't know, 12 to 18 months understanding quantum and what's coming. Um, Simultaneously and very cautiously having customer conversations purely from information and knowledge and nothing else, right? We do a lot of security at Aurora, and we have CISOs that spend tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then we give them this red, yellow, green report. And a CISO from, a very large education organization was sitting with me and he goes, Philip, I've just spent 100,000 with you. Why do I see reds in my report? right? So you can't buy security. My point is that this is ever evolving. We own this as MSPs and MSSPs. This conversation is purely to get going, to start getting informed. Um, in 12 to 18 months, absolutely, we've got to start informing our customers once we're ready.
Awesome. So you mentioned a white paper. Are we going to be able to get a link to that?
Absolutely. I will share the link. And you can just Google World Economic Forum, Cyber Cryptography, Quantum Readiness, June 2023. But I'll definitely share a link with you.
Yeah, grab it with us, and then folks, if you're listening to your phone, open up the description area on your phone. We'll put a link in there for you to access it easy. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit all the buttons. We like buttons on YouTube, and leave a comment. We always appreciate those as well. We'll put that link in the description area for you there as well, so you can go and you can check that out. We've got a lot more coming up for you later on the show. Fantastic cybersecurity discussion. We're going to talk a little bit more about some cyber stories later. Philip, really, really cool conversation. This is interesting stuff. Certainly an area of interest that I have. So, and I think we all learned a lot. So, but we're not done yet. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some events coming up later in the year. We're going to talk with Philip a little bit about a recent trip that he had that's pretty interesting. And we're gonna share some news stories. Maybe we'll make it a cybersecurity kind of theme show, and we'll talk some cyber stories after the break as well. So a lot more ahead. Stick around. We will be right back. And we are back now with part 2 of this episode of ChannelPro Weekly. Still joined here with Philip Souza on this side of the break. We just had a fantastic conversation about quantum computing, the basics, the timeline, where it's at, why it's important. Philip, that was an outstanding
Thank you,
conversation.
Matt. More importantly, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, you guys are doing a great job being influencers in this area, and I appreciate offering this knowledge to MSPs and MSSPs to start the thought process.
Awesome. And I'm sure they're very appreciative as well. Even more reason, folks, to tell a colleague or a friend to subscribe to ChannelPro Weekly, so that way you can get all of this awesome information as well as your compadres in the workplace. If your wife is into that kind of stuff, or your dogs or your pets, we like subscribers of all stripes. So have everybody subscribe. Why not? So Philip, you recently we wanted to have you on several weeks ago because we wanted to have this conversation, but you couldn't because you took a trip to India, and it was an interesting trip. So why don't you tell our listening audience and viewing audience, for those on YouTube, a little bit more about that?
Traveling to India is always fun, Matt, and thank you for asking. So it's it's a 24-hour journey. They feed you well on these planes, and then you close the window. I remember opening the first shock was opening this up on over Qatar and looking at those islands. I know they have them in Dubai, the ones that look like palm trees. And from the airplane, each one of these palm fronds is a mansion. Okay, so let's put that in perspective. And then another 4 hours from Qatar, land in Bombay, 100-degree heat to start with. And I don't know, it's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's hot, it's humid. I'm tired. And of course, you get your transportation, get to the hotel, unwind, and then it starts. I mean, it's family, it's friends, it's business. The trip was emotionally fraught because my parents' home, both parents passed about actually 10 years ago, and 7 years apart at that point. But my mom passed away 10 years ago, and then the ability to sell their home is not very easy to sit here and do it. And so, paperwork and approvals and siblings signing off and all of that. So did that, then headlong to Bombay to catch up with relatives and to get some business done.
So how often? I know you grew up in India. How often do you get back? Was this
I
many
try to do
years
this
or?
trip once a year for multiple reasons. We have a back office. Aurora has a back office in India, and the Aniti Foundation is there as well. And then, of course, with this work from anywhere, it's massive. The ability to source just human resources there. We're actually so Plurilock acquired Aurora and also acquired a company that does cybersecurity out of India. So I had customer meetings as well. So I'm just my head's still spinning. It's been a month since I'm back, Matt, but the various conversations, whether it was business or data privacy or the foundation, we were going a mile a minute, and it was every minute of it was a ton of fun.
Awesome. From what I understand, that there was a certain situation that occurred on this trip, a pants on fire situation.
Oh God.
Tell us about that.
Matt, you remember too much. So um, oh, that's a fun story. So allow me to share a bit about Aniti. Aniti is a nonprofit that we started about 10 years ago. And the idea was purely to empower girls. It's a male-dominated society in India, and the girls rarely get a chance. They're, at the worst case, depending on social strata, they're working at hard labor, and I mean literally breaking stones on the side of the road, or they're bearing babies or getting married early, right? And so my wife and I were focused on helping these kids through technology. So it's fulfilling to go through 6 weeks training them on searching Google, right? And to see their eyes wide open in amazement when they see a map of the United States and learn that, that's where the funding and the donations for this program is coming. These kids, Matt, have never seen a computer in their lives, girls, and probably won't if it wasn't for programs like this. So very fulfilling. However, let's put this in perspective for you. So the NETM Foundation is run in collaboration with the Rotary in Bombay. And so they send this air-conditioned car knowing that I'm too fragile to handle 100-degree weather. And they keep me protected for the entire day. Okay, so we're visiting the girls, it's air-conditioned rooms, training centers, etc. But at the end of the day, there's this moment where they drop me about maybe a quarter mile away from home in Bombay, only because of traffic and everything else. I'm like, okay, hey, don't worry, I'll walk. Matt, I'm in a suit, heavy jeans, and I walk out into, at that point in time, 110 degrees. I truly now understand, what pants on fire means. So that's the fun part of the story. Literally. I mean, just the heat just got me.
I can only imagine what the
Yeah.
heat's like there. But you do get your share of outdoors though. I mean, if you're a Harley rider, as you alluded to earlier in the show, you probably get out and ride through the weather, right?
Yeah, oh
What
yeah. Done some fun stuff. It's a hobby fraught with peril. So I have a few rules. I always travel with friends. Lonely bike riders are exposed. So there's a group of about 6 or 8 of us, and we'll do weekend rounds and, living where we live. There's a nice loop that we can do. So it allows me a little bit of uh, right brain development, so to speak, because when you're riding a bike, you really can't think of anything else except making this machine go through. And not many approve of this particular hobby of mine. I have to say, we've got a lot of doctors and nurses as friends, and they shake their heads disapprovingly. But we're pretty careful, and God, is this a fun state to ride a Harley? And
awesome. So I know Harley riders are awfully very particular about their bikes that they ride. What do you ride?
So I've got a 100th anniversary 2003 Softail, well polished, and it's a realtor friend of ours was getting rid of it, and I jumped on it, and it's my favorite toy.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have any cool like riding stories, something that happened while you're out on the bike? Anything interesting?
Well, so group riding, of course, as I said before, and it's a different world. So one of okay, we live containerized lives, Matt, right? Just for our own safety and our reptilian brain, we're quick to judge and put people in containers, and so are Harley riders, right? So I'll be, head to toe with gear, and you can't see who I am, and I slowly peel off the jacket and the helmet, and here's, gray-haired Indian. That's the last profile that you'd expect to come out of a Harley. And so I kind of enjoy those moments when I'm at a biker bar where there are about 50 or 60 Harleys, and I come out and peel out all the clothing, and I get a quick, double take as, wow, that's different. But no tattoos or no long flowing gray hair yet, but that'll happen soon.
You're not like stopping at bars and like roughing up
Uh,
other rival biker gangs or whatever.
No, not yet. Unless my trainer gets something magical done. I'm more at the getting beaten up end of that spectrum at the moment. So hopefully Jerry will work on, building up a little more muscle mass for me.
Well, I hope your first rumble goes in your favor. So
I will keep you posted, Matt. If not, I'm calling upon all the listeners here for help.
that's awesome. Well, Philip, I want to say thank you so much for popping on and having a conversation with me about quantum, about this really, really great stuff. We're not going to say goodbye to you quite yet. I've got a few stories and a few other things to wrap up, but we'll say goodbye to you in just a moment. But folks, this is kind of a cybersecurity themed episode talking about quantum because then, as we learned, that's going to dramatically impact cryptography. I can speak today, and it's going to become a real security challenge. So, what cyber security stories we got going on ChannelPro Network right now? And by the way, what is channelpronetwork.com? That is the website you need to go each and every day. Set it as your homepage. We've got all kinds of articles, news stories, white papers, resources, downloads, all kinds of great stuff that myself and other editors here and contributors are posting to the site each and every day. And we've got some recent cybersecurity headlines here to share with you. So Open Text Cybersecurity Survey finds customers seek AI-led comprehensive security expertise. So it's a little bit of AI and security. PAX 8 has a new security program you should be aware of. Got an interesting article called The Human Firewall and how MSPs can train employees to be the first line of defense, because even though quantum computing is going to essentially erase standard cryptography as we know it, often in business, your biggest point of weakness is your employees and people. Human beings are the weakest link, as we might have learned. So that article talks a lot about what you can do to train employees to be helpful in defending against cyber attack. We have another article, Rising Demand and Evolving Expectations, Top MSP Trends to Watch. That's a really good one as well. And we'll leave you one more. I think we may have mentioned on the last show, but I did a big article on deep fakes and the trouble that those are going to be causing for businesses in the near future, and how generative AI is going to make deep fakes a very, very real and very big problem for well, everybody really in general, but business as well as personal. So go and check that story out and start thinking about what you need to do to prepare yourself for what AI is going to do to what deepfakes are and how those are going to affect us all. So some interesting stories there for you to check out. And so also that we have coming up, cybersecurity, right? We can talk about ChannelPro Defend. So we've got some events coming up. We do events all around the country each and every year. We just wrapped up our event in Baltimore and Columbus, as I mentioned. We've got some online events coming up, as well as our first cybersecurity event as well in Island, New Jersey. So our upcoming online events, we have one that's called the ChannelPro Product Roundup. We're going to be talking about driving MSP profits with various products. I'll be hosting that. It's on June 18th. It's online. Anybody can register. It's a quick event. You're going to learn a lot in a really, really quick period of time. So make sure you check us out there. Also on cybersecurity, we've got our next deep dive coming up on July 17th. That's going to be all about strategies about selling cybersecurity services. Also exciting is last year in November in LA, we had our first ChannelPro Defend event, which is a cybersecurity 2-day show. Really impactful, a lot of great sessions, a lot of great content, main stage content, breakouts, all kinds of good stuff. Well, we've decided just recently that we were going to do one this year as well. It's going to be in Island, New Jersey. We are now calling that the ChannelPro Defend East show, because we have decided to also run another ChannelPro Defend event on the other side of the country. So we're going to have 2 Defend events this year, make it a little bit easier. So if you're on the East Coast, you don't have to go all the way to like the West Coast and vice versa. So we're doing each one on the coasts. August 7th and August 8th will be ChannelPro Defend in Island, New Jersey. Please make it a point to come out and join us. It is a great event. You're going to get a lot out of it. We've also got more of our ChannelPro live events coming up. Charlotte will be the next city that we're in September. That's September 9th and 10th. We've got some more online stuff. We're going to be in Dallas later in the year. And like I said, we're going to do ChannelPro Defend West in Los Angeles, November 12th and November 13th. I'm going to put some QR codes up on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, go and register for one of those. They are free for qualified attendees, and use our promo code. I think it's podcast 24. That might be a different one on the screen. You can use either one. But if you're listening, podcast 24 is a promo code. Please use that when you register. That is very helpful as well. And yeah, so go and do that. Go and register for one of those events. ChannelProNetwork.com is the website to go to each and every day. Set it as your homepage, bookmark it, share it with a colleague and a friend. There you're going to find all those stories that we talked about earlier. And of course, subscribe to ChannelPro Weekly everywhere podcasts are found. We're on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, Google. Well, Google doesn't do podcasts anymore. We're on all the ones that still exist. And if you happen to find one that we're not in, just let us know, and we will get our show in there for you as well. And make sure that what else, Philip, what else should they do? Philip,
don't forget, well, we're going to leave out tattooing the website on your forehead, but how about likes and comments and kudos for the terrific job that all of you are doing?
That's a great point. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the bell, hit subscribe. Make sure that you're doing that as well. And of course, leave a comment. If you have any feedback for us, podcast@channelpronetwork.com is our email address. Feel free to send me those messages and comments. And hey, you never know, we might even read them on the show someday. Philip, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was great having you here. Great conversation. I'm looking forward to the next time I get to have you on. But in the meantime, if anybody wanted to learn more about you, connect with you, partner with you on doing quantum computing materials, whatever it is, where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
If you haven't figured it out by now, I love to share, love to talk. So find me on LinkedIn. It's literally Philip de Souza, and I'm sure we'll link it on the podcast as well. And again, Matt, hats off. This was a ton of fun, and thank you sincerely for everything that you and ChannelPro are doing in the industry.
I really appreciate that. And so that is going to be a wrap, folks. And we will see everybody in episode 264 next week. See you then.